the night before the heart attack, I had a heart attack on the 24th. Let's see, what was it? 324, 429, 429 of 24 was my heart attack. I had never experienced heartburn before, and I was going to go to bed, and I felt this kind of a burning sensation. I thought it was heartburn. My wife said, "Just take some Tums, and if it works, you're okay." So I took some Tums, and it worked. And I went to bed. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up, and I was in a lot of pain in my chest. And so I called the triage, and I said, I'm having these pains, and I described them, and she said, "You need to get to the hospital right now." So we flew to the hospital, and we were in the emergency room, and they were going to put a stent in my heart, but they found out it was too clogged. So I had triple bypass surgery. Two uh, arteries were clogged, and the third one was 70% clogged. So the heart attack actually probably saved my life. During that sometime, I can't tell you when it happened. I don't know. All I remember is that I was in a pool of water that was bluish green, and I could breathe in this water for some reason. Um, and it felt warm and inviting. It was very, very calm feeling. There was about 5 people in the water with me. Well, not about 5 people. There were 5 people, and I didn't know any of these people. I never met any of them. But for some reason, I felt comfortable with all 5 of these people, and these people could breathe underwater just the same as I could. But the fact that I realized that I was dead because you can't breathe underwater. And I always thought that if I died, would I know I was dead? And I did. I did know that I was dead. And it kind of scared me, but at the same time, um, I was at a peace that I'd never known here on Earth. On Earth, I have PTSD, I have diabetes, I have all kinds of physical ailments, degenerative arthritis, degenerative disc disease, all kinds of stuff. Uh, so I have mental and I have physical, and they feed off of one another. So I didn't feel that in this water. None of that was there anymore. So each person would grab me by the hand, and then they would lead me to a table one at a time. They took me to a table, and they would show me things. Now, the things that they showed me, I don't know what they are. I can't remember what was on the table, but they were showing me things on these tables. So one would take me to a table, show me something, then the next one would take me to the next table and show me something until it got to the 5th person. And the 5th person showed me what they needed to show me, and then they pointed that way, and I turned, and when I turned, it was all black, total black. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to hell. And it really, really scared me. Uh, but all of a sudden, there was a light that came down out of the top of the water, a very bright light. Just came straight down through the water like this, very slowly. And I felt warmth like I'd never felt before. I felt unconditional love. Um, all of my ailments were gone. It was like I was reborn, like I was a baby again. It's just, and it felt like a magnet, a huge, like I was metal and that thing was a magnet, and it was just pulling me to it. But I couldn't move. My feet wouldn't move. I would just sit, I wanted so badly to go into that light, because I knew that God was in that light. I knew it. uh, and I felt the presence of God at that time, and I can tell you that what's beyond this here is so much better than what's right here. Um, I don't think there are words that can describe what heaven is like. Um, but you can sure feel what heaven's like. It's I was about 90% certain that there was a God before I had my near death experience. Now I'm 100%. It's just like the car in my garage. I know God's real. There's no doubt in my mind, and I can never deny it again. You know, I could I could never say, I wonder if there is God. I wonder if what I'm doing is just for nothing. Well, it's for something now. It's for something now. And I've always said that I wanted to live my life as if there is a God, and then if I find out, that's okay. But I don't want to live my life like there isn't a God and then find out there is. So that's the way I've always lived my life. Now, the other thing is, I have to take you back to before the NDE. All through my life, I knew when somebody was going to be in trouble. I always knew it. Um, but it was all bad. So I equated what was going on with the devil because it was everything that was happening was bad. They were getting in trouble for something or in a bad way. So I learned to ignore it, when it happened. I would tell my closest relatives that I felt this way. But, I'm no different than anybody else. I don't want to be different. I don't want to be viewed as a freak show or something, I just didn't want to do that. So I learned to ignore it. Well, after I after I got slammed back into my body out of that experience, that's what happened. Is I went back into my body and I felt the pain again. But after all of this happened, um, it was too much to ignore. I couldn't ignore it like I did before. It felt like I had done something wrong and I needed to tell somebody. That's what it felt like. I just couldn't get rid of the feeling. So I decided, well, if I can't uh, shake it, why not embrace it? What do I got to lose, right? So I started looking around on how to embrace this thing. And I was on Facebook and I saw a group that had near death experiences. And so I went in there and I asked for advice. I said, listen, I would like to embrace what's ever going on with me. I'm scared, but I'd like to do this. And how do I embrace it? And they said, you have to meditate. And I said, meditate? What does that have to do with anything? You know? So I started to meditate. I'd grab some earphones like this and I'd listen to music uh, where it's music that it's like two things playing at once. I can't remember what it's called, but that's that kind of music. It's Zen music. Um, and I would lay down on the bed, and the first time I did this, I saw stars, and I saw all kinds of all kinds of shapes, and I thought, wow, this is strange. But I started, analyzing what I was seeing, and after I realized that what I was seeing was my subconscious talking to me. That's what it is pictures. My subconscious is talking in pictures. And I need to figure out what these pictures mean. So I got online and I figured out how to do that. And I started understanding what the meditations were about. And I started to know my subconscious, which I've come to love, by the way. But what happened was I was on Facebook one day, and for some reason this woman needed some help. And I listened to what she was saying, and I was immediately drawn to her forehead. Just that's all I could see was her forehead, and I thought, this is strange. So I asked her if I could take a picture of her forehead, and she probably thought I was some kind of lunatic or something, But uh, but I did, and she said, "Well, if you find anything, just let me know what you find." I said, "Okay, I'll do that." So I took the picture, and I just just had her forehead, and I was amazed. I found a full scene on her forehead, like a whole scene. She was in it. There was a woman in the kitchen. There was an island in the middle of the kitchen. There were paper towels. There was a sink. There were cupboards. I mean, the whole kitchen was there. Um, and the woman was leaning on the island there, and looking over a couch in the living room. It was a full open deal, and on the couch was a boy and a man and a dog. Now I would imagine that's either her dad as a grandfather or her husband or something was there, and a dog. And so I wrote all this down after seeing it, and I shared it with her what I had seen. And she said she knew exactly who that was and exactly where it was, and that scene. Uh, she knew exactly the house. She knew everything about it. So I decided right then and there, maybe I need to read foreheads. Maybe that's my calling from all of this. So I began doing podcasts, and people started wanting me to read their foreheads. Now, when I read the foreheads, I do it forms a timeline. Well, let me back up a minute. What I believe, and this is just my own belief, I believe that when an event happens in our lives that is stored in memory, the frontal lobe is right behind here of our brain. And I believe that some of that leaks out onto the forehead somehow. I don't know how it happens, but it makes a little mark on our forehead. And I believe the bigger the event is, the more marks it leaves. Okay. And those marks eventually come together. And when they come together, they start forming these pictures on our foreheads. And as we get older, the pictures become more prevalent and bigger and bigger. Um, and that's how it happens. Now, when I read the forehead, I read from right to left on your forehead because when I'm looking at you, that's what it is. And so when I'm looking at it, it's left to right, but it's actually right to left because it's backwards. So I'll read here and then above it, and then here and then above, and then all the way across the forehead like that. And it creates a timeline, is what it does. And then what I do is I have a picture created, an actual picture created, and I show the person what I see on their foreheads is the actual picture. And so and then I give them questions uh, to ask themselves for that picture, for those pictures. And people have been telling me that it's absolutely wonderful that they can look back at their past and see what's happened and learn from it, and maybe they can do things different for their future. Because I don't know about anybody else, but I think the best predictor of future of my future is my past, because that's the way I've acted before, and that's really all I know. So I've got to learn a different way to change the future here, to change what I'm doing. And I can't do that unless I understand what's happened in the past, what I need to change and what I need to keep. So it's been a really a, a blessing to me. But I know that I am only a messenger. I am not. This isn't something uh, that I make up. It isn't something that I have. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not anything like that. I only know that this is a God-given gift, and I'm going to use it for that purpose. And I don't charge anything for it because um, I've been put in a position. I believe I've been put into a position where I don't have to charge for it because I'm disabled. I don't have to go to work. I can do this at my leisure, and I love it. I really do. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about the God of my understanding. Um, and it seems like the more of these I do, the closer I get to God and the bigger he gets. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I knew what near death experience was before I had my NDE, but I actually thought those people were nuts. I really did. And it makes me feel hypocritical now because I didn't I didn't realize it was real. I just thought that these people needed attention and they were just seeking attention. And now I know that it's real. It's very real. So yeah, I did know about what they were. I just didn't believe in them. I guess that's what I want to say. She didn't know that it was a forehead reading. The woman that I read her for the first one, she didn't know it was a forehead reading, and neither did I. Like I said, I didn't see anything on her forehead when I asked her to take a picture of it. I just knew that I was drawn. It was the strangest thing. I mean, who gets drawn to somebody's forehead? Yeah. So I just I just knew it was something like you need to do this. That's what it felt like. So that's what I did. No life review, no memories, anything like that. But I think that's because uh, I didn't I didn't actually talk with God. I didn't actually see the figure of God. I only felt it, and I only saw the light. So I think if my the way I see it is if I would have went into the light, then I would have probably definitely have a life review. Yeah, that was the most unconditional of. It was the kind of feeling like when you're a child and you get hurt and you want to run to your parents and sit on their lap and let them make it better. And then after that, you does better and you feel better. That's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. I've never had an out of body experience. I've had this near death experience, and that's all I've had. Well, the way I knew that I had a near death experience is I was in a lot of pain, and when this happened, there was no pain. And then when it happened, and then when it was over, I was slammed back in my body, and there was the pain again. So that's how I knew it was happening. I told my wife this story first, and she was like, "How did that happen? How is this?" And she questioned it, and I know that she still kind of questions it, but she saw that, people are contacting me, for readings and stuff. But uh, yeah, it's not something that's normal. I mean, it's probably normal for everybody, but instead of coming back, they go on, so you never hear about it. Oh, and that's another thing. I believe that when you have a near-death experience, it creates a hole between the spiritual and here on Earth. There's a hole there because you went there and then you came back. So there's a hole. So when I meditate, I always say the Lord's Prayer because uh, I cannot stop spirits from coming in and out of that hole. And some of those spirits are malevolent. Like they're evil. So I have to ask for protection. When I do the readings, I have to ask for protection when I meditate, that kind of stuff, because they're just like there are bad people here on earth, there's also bad spirits, that come in and out of that hole. So I don't have a big circle of friends before the life death, near death experience. I just don't, mostly just my brothers and my wife and, just family. I don't have a big circle of friends. And there was a lot of pain in my life, either physical and mental, because the PTSD is mental, and then I've got all the physical ailments in my back and my neck and um, different parts of my body down my leg. And I believe that the mental, if you have mental pain, then you're going to have physical pain. And if you have physical pain, you're going to have mental pain because they trigger off of each other and they just keep going back and forth. And I learned before this near death experience that if I get closer to God and I stay in contact with people, that the mental pain isn't as bad. And so if the mental pain isn't as bad, then the physical pain isn't as bad. So I learned that I had to reach out people, before my near death experience. But that's really I could talk to people okay. But as far as getting real close with somebody, I would cut it off before before we would get real close like that. Like I say, just my brothers and a couple others, and that was it. Now I'm kind of like an open book. You know, when I do somebody's reading, I share with them, and I don't tell anybody about anybody else's reading. I may reference it, like I had a woman that did this one time, or this happened, but I don't say who that is. You know, so yeah, it was before my near death experience, more isolated. After my near death experience, uh, way more open, way more open. I've been spiritual for probably about 30 years. I'm uh, I'm an alcoholic, and I've been sober for 29 years. I think it's 29 this year. So, so I've always been spiritual, and that's where I found the God of my understanding is in Alcoholics Anonymous. As far, I'm not religious, although I do listen to religious people because they have a lot of good stuff to say to me. My son is in a church, and he's one of the teachers there, and so we went fishing before, and we talk about God while we're fishing, and he'll talk about scripture and how this has affected his life, and I can talk about AA and how it's affected my life, and it's just we realize that it's the same God. We just got there in a different way, you know. But that doesn't mean that anybody else has to have any kind of that same God. That's just how I have it happened with me. I don't believe that we leave our bodies. I believe our spirit goes into heaven. I don't believe that we're dead and that's it. I can't believe that. There's no way I just experience what happens after I die. I know what happens after I die. And I used to be afraid of dying. And I know that death is going to be uncomfortable no matter what, not taking your last breath or having something happen to you is going to be uncomfortable. There's no way around it. But I also know that whatever that discomfort is, what's on the other side is 10 times better than that discomfort. So I'm not afraid to die anymore. The near death experience changed me because, well, what it has done is it has made me realize why we are here on earth. And we're here to help others, period. That's why we're here, to help each other. But I've also realized that we have to let other people help us. So if we can do that, we will have peace and happiness and joy. But the minute that we stop helping others or letting other people help us, we're turning our way away from God and being isolated again. So that's what's changed is I have a purpose now. Before I was just here and I was fairly happy, but not like I am now. I probably spend a lot more time um, talking with people than I did before. Uh, I do a lot more service work for Alcoholics Anonymous than I did before. Uh, and I guess what's really changed after the NDE is I care more for other people. I didn't before. I didn't realize that I had a purpose. I just thought I was here and I was going to do what I needed to do. And when I was done doing what I was put here to do, then I would go on. But I realize now why I was put here. So I was very confused when this happened. The reason I was confused, well, maybe I don't call it confusion. Maybe I felt like a hypocrite. And that's where the confusion came from, because people who had near-death experiences were were nuts for one thing. And if they say that they saw God or saw a light, they didn't see that. There's no way. It's just their brains doing this or doing that. And so I had to do this no matter what. And I had to stop listening to those people that told me it's not right and you're not supposed to do this and this and this and this, because it didn't serve any purpose at all. It didn't serve me well, and it didn't serve them to sit and judge me like that. So I just had to realize that. Well, let me put it this way: if I'm in a room full of 100 people and 99 of them say that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and the other one says this is not right, you're just lying, and they're putting me down. Why in the world would I pay attention to the one person that's saying that stuff and just leave the other 99 hanging? Why? There's no purpose in that. So I've learned to leave the ones alone and be with the 99s. I've had some people that I've given readings to that are dying, and they find comfort knowing that death is not the end. It's just not the end. It's not final. Uh, and I believe our spirit is still around after we die. It's just in a different way. You know, that's how we get those gut feelings. You know, like I should do this and I should do that. That's a spirit going tapping on your shoulder, saying, "Listen, listen, do this, do this." You're going through a difficult time right now. Realize that those difficult times are for a reason. Um, a lot of times it's so you're an example. It's not a curse, and it's not that you're a bad person. It's the way it's supposed to be. You know? And when you and if you're in a bad way, or you're at the end of your life, just know that it's not going to be there. All that stuff that you're thinking right now and all the stuff that's going on, it's not going to be there anymore. So there is an end to the pain and the suffering. If you're having a bad time, just know that there is a God. He's there, and you're going through what you're going through for a reason. I have to tell myself that every day, but I know that God's using me for an example, and I need to be here for people who are going through the same thing. I live through something. Uh, well, it's just alcoholism. If I live through that, I'm sober for 29 years, and I talk to somebody who's just wants to stop drinking, then I serve a purpose. But when I was that person that wanted to stop drinking and I had all that hurt and that pain, I needed somebody else like me to be there for me. So, we're here like I said, it all goes back to we're here to help others and let others help us. We're going through things so we can help somebody else. If you want a free forehead reading, they're always free. Um, you can send an email to foreheadreadings@gmail.com. That's how you can get a hold of me. And when you do, just take a picture of yourself from the shoulders up. You don't have to be close. Show as much forehead as you can. No makeup or sunscreen on your forehead. Nothing on your forehead. And I will get back to you and do a forehead reading and send it back in the email for you. It depends on the load. Like usually after a podcast, then it becomes a lot. And what I do is I go by day and then by name. So, whoever is on one day is going to get done faster than the other person that replied another day. So, and there are some cases that I make I make an exception because people are in a bad way or something. But yeah, that's the way I do it. Wanted to leave you with the parting word. It would be, hang on. There's a lot more to come. Don't give up. Don't give up. Just stick to the fight. And if we look back at our lives, we can see everything happened for a reason. And that now that we have had that experience, there is somebody that's going through that same experience that we can help. And so we go through these things, and then when we're going through the experiences, we need to reach out to people who have already been through the experiences so that they can help us up too. So it's kind of like we keep a hand out to those that in need, and we put our hand out to those that can help us at the same time. That would be my parting.